12 News is your local election headquarters. Now, we continue our Where They Stand series on WPRI.com and the 12 Plus Smart TV app. I'm Ray Bakari. Joining me today is Lenny, Cioe, who is one of 4 Democrats running in the Senate District 4 special election this summer. This special election comes after the death of Senate President Dominic Ruggiero, who died in April, and the district contains all of North Providence and a small part of Providence. Lenny, it's good to have you here.
Thank you very much for having me today, Ray.
So for those watching, explain a little bit about yourself and why you're running for state senate.
All right. So I'm a registered nurse and Democrat, and I'm running for state senate because I still believe, outside the perceived view of in the politics and the political scene, that it is a noble pursuit to serve the public and serve the communities that I live in and serve the state of Rhode Island. I've always held this belief, and that was my original belief why I ran. It's a different race now that it's an open seat. It's a very incredible experience. It changes you when you run for office. And if it doesn't, you're running for the wrong reasons. You meet constituents, and you realize the resilience they have and up against the struggles that they have, trying to pay rent, trying to buy groceries, trying to get health care. And they have this resilience to them that inspires you to work hard to help them get what they need and reach out to them and help them. And I've been doing that my whole life. So this is just an extension of where I want to go next.
Now let's talk some policy. Arguably one of the biggest bills focused on this legislative session was the ban on so-called assault-style weapons. This was a policy that the former office holder for this seat, Ruggiero, he opposed on the state level for years, saying that it needed to be done federally. He signaled some openness to having it be at least voted on this session. And we're seeing a little bit of a debate. Full disclosure, we're taping this before the primary and the last day of the legislative session. Mm-hmm. So there's 2 versions of the bill. They kind of debate on should there be a ban on just the sale and purchase of these weapons, or the sale, purchase, and ownership of these weapons. Where do you stand?
All right. So, Ray, I come from a different point of view, and I am not a gun owner. So it's a medical point of view. I've taken care of a lot of young men at Rhode Island Hospital who have been wounded or paralyzed by gun violence. And you see how it destroys their lives. And at the same time, I know a lot of gun owners, and it's their hobby, or it's something they enjoy. And the problem is, and I keep saying this, it's not about the guns. It's about the society has let a lot of young men down and a lot of young adults down. And we haven't helped them find a place in society. So it's really interconnected. It's not just about the guns. And if you want to look at our history, if you think about the Oklahoma City bombing, there was no guns involved in that. So, and mass shootings have become a public health crisis. So we really need to look at why this is happening. And like I said, I sat across a lot of my friends that are gun owners. And what they always tell me is, it's not, you can make as many laws as you want, but the gun violence is still going to happen. And they obey the laws. So I really think that it should be an investment in our public policies. Like, the question is, why are these young men turning to gun violence against grocery stores, in schools? Why are they turning to this? And the clear answer is that we haven't built a society that has. We built a society that has abandoned these young men.
If I may just interject,
sure.
Lenny, it is a topic that could have a whole interview of its own, but somebody watching this at home may say, he's running for state senate. This is a bill you have to vote up or down on. So if you were in the Senate, how would you vote on the assault weapons ban?
At this point, I think they're going down the wrong track. I really do. I don't think they're looking at the whole picture about guns.
So you wouldn't vote for the bill? I just want to clarify how whether it be the one that just bans sale and purchasing, or sale, ownership, and purchase. I just want to get where you stand on that.
Okay, all right. Ray, would you mind repeating it, please?
Yeah, no worries. So there's a debate right now between two versions of the bill. One being, banning sale, ownership, and purchasing, and then the other version just sale and purchasing. Which one would you favor, or do you even oppose either?
I oppose both of them. I really do. I think sales and purchasing would probably where I'd be leaning to, but it's so much more than guns. It really is. And just to say a topic of ban guns, the violence is going to happen anyway, and we really need to look what the cause of the violence is.
Okay, let's move on to the budget. That's arguably the biggest bill that lawmakers have to vote on every year. The budget is currently sitting at just a little bit over $14 billion, and it's a bit of a broad topic, so I'll give you a leeway with whatever your answer is with this, because some say to lower the cost of the budget, or fill in a lot of holes with the deficits that we have, that we had pre-COVID and that we're having again now. Some say cut wasteful spending, some say increase taxes on wealthier residents. If you could give one thing you'd favor to try and address the budgetary issues our state face, what would it be?
Right. At this point, we have to all realize that trickle-down economics does not work. Period. End of story. We have multinational corporations in this state that we could be taxing 3% on their properties alone and help fill in the state budget. But because of the way that lawmakers feel, we can't tax wealthy people's, wealthy corporations' money because they'll leaves us in a deficit and putting it on the backs of middle class. And the middle class we are always taking the hit for any budget reform. We really got to get over this trickle-down economics. We have to look at the multinational corporations in the state and figure out how to get tax monies from them instead of giving them tax breaks so that we can fill the holes in the state budget.
So increasing taxes on the wealthier to fill the holes.
But I'm talking about multinational corporations. Mostly because we have ExxonMobil, we have Amazon, we have a host of corporations that we could tax.
And then what about residents who have higher incomes? Where do you feel about that?
Their property taxes alone pay for their towns, and within their income tax and all that. They do pay taxes, the wealthier residents. But it's the multinational corporations that get away with the most.
Speaking of taxes, Providence is in the district, albeit a small part. The city's having a tough situation with their budget. Again, we're taping this before July 1st, which the city council will need to pass a budget by. Mayor Smiley's asking lawmakers to let the city increase taxes beyond that 4% cap, but no higher than 8%, to account for a $15 million expense that stems from that settlement after a lawsuit with the school district. A bit of a two-parter here. Would you support, or would you have supported or opposed that bill? And would there have been a better way the city could have dealt with this?
Again, Mayor Smiley loves trickle-down economics. There's plenty of corporations within that city that he could tax more. And he could, Brown is under the umbrella of nonprofit, now they are Brown Health. He could increase what they have to pay in, and there's and the same thing with other corporations within the city. And again, it always comes to the middle class residents that end up paying most of the taxes. They always get hit, and it's unfair. We have to start punching up, not down, and that's what they have to realize, that there's all this money that they never tap into, and they leave it alone because, again, it's like we can't take the rich people's money. But look at all these corporations that are there. Brown alone should be paying more.
And just for the viewer at home, he's referencing
Brown.
Brown University, and a lot of the private colleges, they don't pay property taxes, but they pay a little bit to the city through an agreement called the pilot program, payment in lieu of taxes. So you favor increasing how much those colleges have to pay.
Well, Brown University is now Brown Health.
Right. And the
Correct?
hospitals, too, are part of this.
Yes. So look at the monies that they're bringing in. I mean, they went out of state to get more money. They went to they bought 2 hospitals, St. Anne's and I forgot the other one they bought, but just to get more money in. So they're making money.
And then the other part of the question I want to get your thoughts on, I appreciate you answering that other part, because that answered my question of how to, if there was another way the city could address it. Lawmakers still have to vote on that bill to give the city the privilege to increase taxes beyond the 4% cap and no higher than 8%. How would you have voted on it?
I would look at other avenue streams of taxing.
So you'd oppose that bill?
Yes.
Got it. Final question. This is up your alley because you're a nurse. State's facing a healthcare crisis. It's caught the attention of state leaders, and it's a multifaceted issue. One of the hospitals affected by this whole healthcare crisis, Fatima, is in the district. And then we saw Anchor Medical shut down. A lot of people argue that the reimbursement rates being increased could help this. I also want to get your perspective, since you're in healthcare. What do lawmakers need to do to address the crisis?
So, Ray, you've followed my campaign for a while. What was my main thing that I ran on every single time?
You ran on healthcare.
Yep, and I ran on Medicaid reimbursements, and I rang the alarm bell. 3 times I rang the alarm bell. Think about how we could avoid this crisis if they had raised the reimbursements 7 years ago. We would have been avoiding this crisis. And here we are finally in a crisis, and they're paying attention. So, I'm a proactive person, not a reactive person. Had they been proactive 7 years ago, we would not be here. And it's a shame that it took Anchor Medical to close. It took Province Community Health Center shutting down all their smart clinics, all their clinics, a couple of buildings. Thunder Mist is in trouble. It's a host of buildings and a whole host of the backbone of healthcare in Rhode Island through the community health centers that are in trouble because the Medicaid reimbursements. And I do agree with the fact that they passed a Medicaid increase rates for primary care providers. But again, it was the taxes, again, are going to be taken out on the middle class through, I think, raising the gas and I forgot the other thing they're going to use. But again, they don't go after the corporations that they could be taxing to get money to fill this gap in for healthcare and the stopgap programs that are needed in healthcare. And we have 2 more crises coming. We have Rhode Island Energy that is cutting off 65% of the people in Rhode Island Energy lost their medical protections. 44% of seniors lost their ability, lost their ability to stop shutoffs. They increased their rates by $200 a month. That's a healthcare crisis in the making. Because think about what's going to happen if you have you have somebody that's medically dependent on an event and their electricity gets shut off or their gas gets shut off. So, and then the increase in the new medical billing. Blue Cross Blue Shield is raising their rates. All the different insurance companies are raising their rates, secondary to the tariffs on making drugs. So we have a huge healthcare crisis coming on top of the Medicaid reimbursements. And these small waves are going to turn into tsunamis if we don't act now and start taxing the multinational corporations in this city and in this state.
That was all the questions I had, Lenny. I want to thank you for giving us your time for this. I appreciate you coming down.
Thank you.
And thank you for tuning into this edition of Where They Stand. Remember, 12 News is your local election headquarters. We have all the other candidates' interviews available on WPRI.com and the 12 Plus Smart TV app. For now, Ray Bakari, 12 News.